So my number two is The First Wives Club from '96, directed by Hugh Wilson, starring Goldie Hawn, Bette Midler, Diane Keaton, Sarah Jessica Parker, a bunch of other great people. Quick log line: you're reunited by the death of a college friend. Three divorced women seek revenge on the husbands who left them for younger men. Women, sorry. That would be a different movie, which I would love
Oh,
to
that
watch.
should be the remake of this, where
That should,
all the men leave them for younger men.
well, that's Grace and Frankie, sort of, but yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, they've already done that. Okay, well,
um, but yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that we were talking about builds in this movie, where these are women, and to me, what this movie represents is that joy of madness of being with people that you've known earlier in your life or maybe your whole life, and when you put them back together, what happens? And I think, because I think women are willing to be a lot more vulnerable, this movie always struck a chord with me, because I really felt that, oh yeah, if I were kind of put back in place with people that I grew up with, and if they were also vulnerable the way I like to be, some really fun stuff and mad stuff would happen. And I think that's what this movie really shows. I also think this movie really does a great job in demonstrating what it is to work on a project with your friends. They are sort of on this project of kind of taking revenge on their husbands or ex-husbands, and I find that very interesting, like including this podcast.
I was going to say meta commentary now.
Exactly.
You're making meta commentary.
Yeah, working on something with your friend. And I think and I've had many of those experiences through school and work and such, and brainstorming sessions and what have you. And it's really great, right? Because you're working with somebody with whom you share a connection with. You obviously know them to a point, and especially when you're working on something together as friends and you connect on something, that joy is multiplied, by like 1,000 times, as opposed to if you were doing that with like a stranger person, because you're sort of building on the shared foundation that you already have with them. On the flip side, though, you also discover and are reminded of the things that annoy you about your friends, as you're working with them,
Right.
which can be infuriating in many ways. And this is why when you have a good relationship with them, you call them out for who they are and what they did. But you're able to do that because you have that trust with them and you have that shared foundation. And sometimes things do get fiery and hot and heavy. And that's when you have to kind of, go overboard and save it, because you have to ask the question that this thing that we're arguing about, does that really matter? What really matters here is the friendship that we have. And
Right.
This is where you let go of what you should be letting go of. And I think the Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn relationship and friendship, what happens with them is very emblematic of that, I think, in this movie. The other thing that I love about this movie also is that this theme of there's no pretense between good friends. You can start with that for a little bit, but good friends will strip you off of that pretense, whether you like it or not. And I love that. I think friends are truth tellers. They tell you the things that are ugly no matter what. And it's a little bit of the joshing thing that you were talking about earlier. But to me, this is deeper. It's not, there's joshing in there, but it's really more of, I'm going to put up a mirror in front of your place and really tell you.
Right. Right.
It's coming from a place of tough love, really, to kind of show you how things really are. And this movie is sprinkled with moments of that throughout, but especially that first long brunch to lunch to cocktails to dinner scene that they all have after their friend's funeral, where they're reconnecting and everybody is prim and proper in the beginning, but by the end of it, everything sort of just falls apart and everyone's laughing and everyone's giving each other shit. So I just love that about this. So yeah, the movie is heightened. Obviously, the whole revenge plot is funny, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work, but who cares? I think what makes this movie work to me is the women, who are amazing, brilliantly cast. It's just such layers and layers of character, maybe not so much in the writing, but just in their performance, where you just believe that these people know each other. And there's sort of like a dark sadness to the movie too, because the movie really starts with Straka Channing committing suicide, which is really dark and sad. And on days when I watch this movie, when I'm feeling a little bit off, it's really moved me that, oh, somebody was in such pain would do such a thing, and their last wish is to unite their gang back together. There's something very moving and sweet and dark about it. So I think the shadow of that is throughout the entire movie, if you can see it, because the movie is pretty slapstick. But yeah, it's one of those repeat watch movies for me, which is a comfort movie. It brings me a lot of joy, laugh out loud funny moments. So yeah, I highly recommend it. But at the heart of it, it's a great friendship hang movie.
No, yeah, definitely the three lead actresses. I think the movie basically just depends on that working or not.
Exactly.
The chemistry is there between them, and all three of them are just great actresses on their own. And I think they have the good chemistry together as well. Yeah, so this is a movie I'd never seen before. It was my sisters always liked it growing up, and I just never had, not that I was avoiding it. It just never had been something that I'd ever put on. But I've been curious about it. I think it was, successful at the time, and I think they made a play of it or something at one point. So it definitely has like a cultural resonance. But yeah, it didn't really work for me beyond the three lead actors. Like, I felt that the tone was very odd. Like, again, starting with that suicide to me was just something that didn't feel like it then fit in what the rest of the movie was doing. Just a lot of odd, like, director choices too. Like, all the Star Wars wipes in it for some reason just struck me kind of weird. I really, the music I really just disliked, and I was shocked to find out it was Oscar nominated score. I was like, it noticeably was like hurting my enjoyment of the film, how bad, or not bad, like how out of place and just overdone the score was. Yeah, like, I think the women's scenes the three of them together were great. The actual plot with them, like with the husbands, I just didn't think like the movie, other than Diane Keaton's husband, the guy from Seventh Heaven, who like basically ran away with her with their like therapist. The other two guys, I was like, okay, I don't know why they deserve to get like pummeled at all for anything here. I felt that it was like they were trying to play the victims too much, and they weren't, it was both people's fault. I think that their marriage just didn't work out. Other than, again, Diane Keaton was a different story. So I felt like that whole plot thing was like sort of too extreme, where I was kind of like, I know that was siding with the men, but I was like, at least the story should have all three of them kind of be scummy guys and not just the one of them. But it wasn't like the worst thing I'd ever seen. I just didn't, it didn't really work for me beyond like the three performances. But I think all the things you talked about in terms of friendship representation was definitely there. So I don't disagree with you on that. The film just didn't work for me. In a weird way, I was kind of disappointed by it, just because I guess in my head, it was built up as something that, at least this is going to be like a Runaway Bride or like a Notting Hill or like, a 90s romantic comedy, which is a genre that I can definitely enjoy. But yeah, I don't know. This just for some reason just didn't land with me.
Well, clearly somebody sold it to you wrong, because this is not that movie. This is not a Notting Hill, Runaway Bride.
There's
90s.
a dance sequence to a Motown song at the end of the movie. I mean,
sure.
that you have to put that in every 90s film.
Right.
And I thought their dance
movie
sucked. But yeah, I know.
No, this movie is a lot more slapstick. It's sort of more in the Ruthless People kind of, vein, as opposed to a romantic comedy vein, which is why a lot of it doesn't make that much sense, but it's not supposed to, So I think the only way this movie can be enjoyed, I think, is without intellectualizing it at all. But if this was sold to you in a different way, because rom-coms have heart, but they also have like an intellectual sort of storyline plot that for the most part makes sense. Here, I don't know if it makes total sense and all the flaws that you're pointing out, but I think that's not the point. So, and also I think this is a movie, it depends on when you first watched it. I watched it when I was, I think, in my late teens, because my mom must have put it on or something.
So that's when it came out. We were in our late teens,
right? Yeah. So it sort of stayed with me, for a long, long time. So there's a little bit of that too. Like, watching this movie now in the age we are, and if it's sold to you the way it was, I'm not surprised that it didn't land on you. But
I was surprised. I was surprised. I thought I was going to enjoy this more than I did, I guess. But the performances, I think if the movie was trying to bring three great actors together, and get the chemistry there. Like it definitely did that. Like, you know, and those are three of some of my favorite like female actors.
So good.
Yeah. Bette Midler's great in this too.
She's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't. I'll have to wait for the remake where the women are left or the husbands leave them for other men. That I would watch.
That would be amazing.
I'll have to noodle on this. I think there's some we can add this to the list of came up with a couple movie ideas over the course of this podcast so far. We'll put this one in it too. When we start our production company at the end of our podcast, the movies that shaped us production company, this can be one of our projects we'll shop around.
Love it. Done.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.